In 2019, Helix was the most exciting company in the world. Their device, smaller than a shoebox, claimed to detect over 200 diseases from a single drop of blood in under 10 minutes for less than $5. The founder, Alexander Kaine, was on the cover of Forbes 3 years running. She was called the next Steve Jobs. The future of American medicine. The valuation was $9 billion. Hospitals were using their machines. People were making life or death decisions based on Helix results. Then a scientist whispered 4 words to a junior employee that unraveled everything. The device doesn't work. This is the story of what they found, and what it cost them to tell the world. Let's go back. You'd just finished your master's degree in data science. Graduated May. Broke by August. Living in a shared house in Oakland with 5 other people, you'd applied to 34 companies. Data analyst roles, biotech, finance, tech. Every single one came back with the same word. Overqualified. Or nothing at all. Week 10. You were applying to a coffee shop when your phone rang. Unknown number. A recruiter. From Helix. She said they'd found your thesis online. She said Alexandra Kaine herself had flagged your work. She used the phrase, changing the world, 4 times in 3 minutes. The interview was in Palo Alto. You borrowed your housemate's car. You drove 90 minutes in traffic with a gas gauge near empty. The Helix campus was nothing like anything you'd seen. All white, all glass, all possibility. The lobby had a live feed on the wall. Patients thanking Helix for catching their cancer early. Families saying the test saved their father's life. Children who were alive because of early diagnosis. You believed every word of it. The interview was with Alexandra Kaine herself. She shook your hand. She knew your thesis title. She asked you 3 questions and then said, "You're exactly what we need." She looked you in the eye and said, "We're not building a company here. We're fighting death itself. Are you ready for that?" You said yes. 3 weeks later, you started your first day. The inside of Helix was unlike any workplace you'd ever seen. Everything was white. Everything was fast. Everyone believed. Your job, analyze the data output from Helix devices across 47 hospitals, flag anomalies, report to Dr. Park in the validation lab. The lab was beautiful, machines the size of shoeboxes, automated, precise, gleaming. Dr. Park was the head of validation. He'd worked in diagnostics for 20 years. He had a quiet, careful way of explaining things that made you trust him immediately. You worked alongside him for 2 months. And everything seemed extraordinary. The all-hands meetings were electric. Alexandra Kaine would stand on a stage and talk about the lives they were saving. She was magnetic. Impossible not to believe. She would say, "Every person in this room is a doctor. Every person here will save 1,000 lives before they retire." You called your mother that night and told her you'd found your purpose. Month 3. You started noticing something in the data. Small at first, the kind of thing you could explain away. The false positive rate on device cluster 7 was 12%. For a medical diagnostic device, that's catastrophic. For a blood test detecting cancer, 12% false positives means 12% of people are being told they have cancer when they don't. You told yourself you'd made a calculation error. You ran the numbers again, same result, 12.4%. You ran it a 3rd time, 12.6%. Not a calculation error, a systemic failure. The next morning, you went looking for Dr. Park. You found him in the lab, running tests. He saw your face. He knew. He looked at you, then looked around the lab, looked at the cameras in the corner of the ceiling. Then he said, "Walk with me." He took you to the stairwell, the only place in the building without cameras. He leaned close and said, "The device doesn't work." 4 words. You felt the floor shift beneath you. The blood analysis protocol has a 15 to 20% error rate across all clusters. Not just yours, all of them. We've known for 8 months. We've known for 8 months. You could barely say the words. I raised it internally 3 times. Each time I was told to keep the research internal. Each time I was reminded of the NDA I signed. Last month, I found out a woman in Phoenix was told she had pancreatic cancer, stage 3. She started chemo immediately, lost her hair, lost 12 pounds, told her family. He stopped. She was perfectly healthy. The test was wrong. A woman who went through chemotherapy she didn't need, because Helix's device gave her a wrong result. And somewhere else. Another patient who did have cancer was told they were fine and went home. You leaned against the stairwell wall. You couldn't speak for almost a minute. Then you asked, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "I want you to verify everything independently, using only data I haven't touched. I need a second voice. I can't be the only one who knows this." You looked at the exit door. You thought about your student debt, your NDA, your parents, and you said, "Okay." Over the next 3 weeks, you built an independent data set. Night, after everyone else went home, you pulled raw data directly from the hospital feeds. Data that bypassed Helix's own reporting software. Data no one had cleaned, no one had adjusted. Raw truth. What you found was worse than 12%. Across all 47 hospitals, across 89,000 tests conducted over 18 months. The error rate was between 17% and 24% depending on the disease. That means for every 100 tests Helix ran, up to 24 of them were wrong. Out of 89,000 tests across 47 hospitals, up to 21,000 wrong results. 21,000 people given a wrong answer about their health, about cancer, about heart disease, about whether they had time to say goodbye. You printed the entire analysis, 47 pages. You put it in a plain envelope and hid it in the lining of your laptop bag. The next morning, you walked past Sandra Chen. No, wait, that's a different story. You walked past Brad, Helix's head of PR. Brad, who that morning had just sent a press release announcing 10 million tests completed. You went to the bathroom. You ran cold water over your wrists, and you made a decision. You couldn't go to the SEC this time. You'd signed an NDA. Legal action would take years. People were taking the test right now. Every day this continued, more people got wrong results. There was one option. A journalist. Maya Torres had broken 3 major medical device scandals in 6 years. She was the right person. But contacting her meant trusting someone entirely outside your world. You went home. You made tea. You sat at your kitchen table with your laptop open and her email address in the TO field. And you stared at it for an hour. You thought about the woman in Phoenix. You thought about 21,000 people. You pressed send. She replied in 4 hours. 2 words. "I know." She chose the location. A parking garage in Soma, level 3. 11 p.m. You waited by a concrete pillar on level 3. Not many cars. Quiet except for the drip of water somewhere in the structure. Footsteps. Maya Torres walked toward you from the ramp. She looked exactly like her photo. She didn't waste time. "I've had a Helix source for 3 months. They gave me internal emails. But I needed someone with data access." She looked at your bag. "You have something." You pulled the envelope out of your bag. 47 pages, 2 years of Helix data. You handed it to her. She opened it right there. She read the first 3 pages. She looked up. "This is the piece I've been trying to build for 3 months." She was quiet for a moment. "Are you prepared for what happens after I publish this?" You thought about it. Really thought about it. Then you said, "Yes." She nodded. She walked back toward the ramp. She paused and said, "Don't go into the office tomorrow." Then she was gone. You stood in that parking garage for a long time. Alone. Listening to water dripping somewhere in the dark. You didn't go into the office. You sat at home and waited. At 6:02 a.m., the San Francisco Chronicle published the story. The headline was 47 words long. The first 4 were the ones that mattered. Helix tests were wrong. 4 words. Our character saw it at 6:08 a.m. His phone immediately began ringing. Unknown number. He didn't answer. 30 seconds later, his personal email pinged. Helix Legal Department. Within 2 hours, Helix stock had dropped 34%. The FDA announced it was suspending Helix's authorization to operate. All 47 hospitals were ordered to halt testing. Alexander Kaine held a press conference at noon. She was in her black turtleneck. She was still perfectly composed. She read a statement written by her lawyers. She called the story recklessly inaccurate. She called the data incomplete and misrepresented. She looked directly into the cameras and said, "Our technology works." By 3 p.m., Dr. Park had been placed on administrative leave. By 5 p.m., Helix security had cleared our character's desk. They sent the termination letter by email while he was still sitting at home. He found out he'd been fired before they'd even called to tell him. He sat in the quiet of his apartment. And for the first time, he didn't know what came next. Over the next 6 weeks, the story detonated. Congressional hearing, SEC investigation, class action lawsuit filed by 214 patients. Alexander Kaine was subpoenaed. She sat before Congress for 7 hours. She answered most questions with, "I'd need to consult with my legal team." The FDA's investigation confirmed everything in the data. The Helix device had a systemic error rate of between 19 and 28% across all disease categories. The company had been aware since the first year of commercial operation. Alexander Kaine was indicted on 12 counts of wire fraud. Helix filed for bankruptcy 4 months after the article was published. Dr. Park was offered his job back 3 times by different diagnostic companies. He took a position teaching at Stanford Medical School. Maya Torres won the Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting. She thanked in her acceptance speech the people who understood that some secrets are more dangerous kept than told. Our character, under whistleblower protection law, was awarded $2.1 million from the SEC's sanctions against Helix. His name was never made public. And Eleanor, the woman in Phoenix who went through chemotherapy she didn't need, she found out the truth 3 months after the article. She filed her claim against Helix. She won $1.4 million. Here's what I want you to take from Helix. When a product is too good to be true, when the numbers don't align with the claims, someone always knows. Always. The Elizabeth Holmeses of the world count on one thing, that the people who know will decide that knowing is enough, that they can carry the secret without acting on it. But secrets carried alone become heavier over time, not lighter. The world remembered Sharon Watkins at Enron, Harry Markopoulos against Madoff, Erica Cheung at Theranos, not because they were brave, because they made a choice. Every single one of them had a moment where they could have stayed silent, and they chose not to. If you want more stories like this, the ones that changed industries, exposed fraud, and shifted power, subscribe to Empire Vault. New documentary every week. See you next time.